Olivia Martinez clutched her worn leather portfolio against her chest, her heart racing as she rushed through the gleaming lobby of Richardson Global Enterprises. The pristine marble floors reflected the morning sunlight, making her feel even more out of place in her carefully pressed second-hand blazer. At 28, she had mastered the art of making everything look more expensive than it was, but standing in this corporate temple of success, she felt every bit the struggling single mother she was. "Please, please, please," she whispered, jabbing the elevator button repeatedly. The interview was in 12 minutes and she needed this job more than she'd ever needed anything in her life. Well, almost anything. Her son Lucas's smile still topped that list. The thought of his gap-toothed grin this morning as she dropped him off at Mrs. Thompson's apartment gave her strength. "I'll make dinosaur nuggets for dinner if you're good today, buddy," she'd promised, even though it was the last package in their nearly empty freezer. She'd skipped her own breakfast again this morning, saving the remaining cereal for Lucas. The rent was due next week, and their kitchen cabinets were almost bare, but she couldn't bear to see the disappointment in his eyes when there was nothing special to eat. The elevator doors finally slid open, and Olivia darted inside, pressing the button for the 47th floor. Just as the doors began to close, a hand shot through the gap. The doors reversed, revealing a man who seemed to have stepped out of a magazine cover, tall with dark hair and eyes that crinkled slightly at the corners when he smiled apologetically at her. "Thanks for holding it," he said, though she hadn't. His voice was warm and rich with a hint of something she couldn't quite place, maybe a slight accent. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Olivia managed a polite nod, trying to focus on reviewing her interview responses in her head. The position of executive assistant to the marketing director could change everything for her and Lucas. The salary would mean no more choosing between buying food and paying the electricity bill. No more watering down the milk to make it last longer. No more pretending she wasn't hungry so Lucas could have a full meal. Just last night, she'd found him trying to save half his dinner for her, his small face so serious as he pushed the plate toward her. No more lying awake at night, wondering how to stretch the last $5 until payday, or fighting back tears at the grocery store as she put back essential items they simply couldn't afford. The elevator hummed smoothly upward, passing the 20th floor when a strange grinding sound filled the air. The car shuddered, and Olivia's stomach lurched as it came to an abrupt halt. The lights flickered once, twice, and then stabilized. "No, no, no," Olivia breathed, her fingers trembling as she pressed the emergency call button. "This can't be happening." Her interview was in... She checked her phone, 8 minutes. The screen showed no service. Of course. "Hey, it's okay," the man said, his voice calm and steady. "These things usually resolve pretty quickly." He pressed the call button himself, and a crackly voice informed them that maintenance was aware of the issue and working to resolve it. "I have an interview," Olivia blurted out, hating how her voice cracked. "It's important. Really important." He studied her face for a moment, and she noticed his eyes were an unusual shade of green, flecked with gold. "Tell me about it," he said, loosening his tie slightly and leaning against the elevator wall. "What's the position?" Maybe it was the stress, or maybe it was something in his gentle expression, but Olivia found herself telling him everything. About the executive assistant position, about how she'd been preparing for weeks, studying the company's recent acquisitions and marketing strategies. She told him about the night classes she'd been taking in business administration, squeezing in homework after Lucas fell asleep. "Lucas?" he asked, his expression softening. "My son," she said, pulling out her phone and showing him the lock screen photo of a beaming 4-year-old with her dark curls and dimpled cheeks. "He's my whole world." "He looks like a great kid," the man said, and something in his voice made her look up. There was a shadow of something in his expression, pain maybe, or longing. "He is," she said softly. "That's why this interview means everything. I want to give him the life he deserves." The man was quiet for a moment, then said, "Can I give you some interview tips? I've conducted quite a few in my time." For the next 20 minutes, as maintenance worked on the elevator, he coached her through potential questions, offering insights she'd never considered. He had a way of making complex corporate concepts simple and clear, and despite her panic about the time, she found herself relaxing, even laughing at his clever observations about office politics. "You know," he said after she'd successfully role-played a particularly tricky interview scenario, "you have something many candidates don't, genuine determination and resilience." Don't be afraid to let that show. The elevator lights flickered again, and suddenly the car began to move. Olivia's heart jumped. She was now officially late for her interview. Her chances were probably already ruined. "What floor are you heading to?" the man asked as they began moving again. 47, she replied, trying to keep her voice steady despite her disappointment. Something flickered across his face. Surprise? Amusement? But before she could analyze it, the elevator doors opened on the 47th floor. The man gestured for her to exit first. "Thank you," she said, meaning it for more than just the courtesy. "You made a terrifying experience much less scary." He smiled, and this time it reached all the way to those green gold eyes. "The pleasure was mine, Olivia." She realized she'd never told him her name, but before she could ask how he knew it, he pressed a button and the elevator doors closed between them. Olivia stood there for a moment, confused, then turned toward the reception desk. The secretary looked up, her eyes widening slightly. "Ms. Martinez, Mr. Richardson is ready to see you now." "Mr. Richardson?" Olivia's confusion deepened. "I'm here to interview with Ms. Cooper, the marketing director." The secretary's lips twitched. "There's been a slight change of plans. Mr. Richardson, the CEO, has requested to conduct your interview personally." As Olivia followed the secretary down the hallway, her mind raced. The CEO? But why would he? Her steps faltered as realization began to dawn. The man in the elevator, his intimate knowledge of the company, the way he'd known her name. The secretary opened a door and there he stood. The man from the elevator, his green gold eyes twinkling with what could only be described as mischief. But there was something else in his expression too, something that made her heart skip a beat. "Welcome, Olivia," he said warmly. "Shall we begin our second interview?" Olivia sank into the plush leather chair across from Alexander Richardson's imposing desk, her mind still reeling from the elevator revelation. The wall of windows behind him offered a breathtaking view of the city, but her attention was fixed on his face, searching for any hint of the gentle stranger who'd helped calm her fears minutes ago. "Let's be honest with each other, Olivia," he said, his tone shifting to something more professional, though his eyes retained their warmth. "Your resume is impressive, but it's your persistence that caught my attention. 3 applications to different positions in our company over the past year." Heat crept into her cheeks. "I believe in Richardson Global's mission of sustainable development. Each position I applied for aligned with my skills, and you need this job desperately," he finished softly. The simple statement hung in the air between them. Olivia straightened her spine. "Yes, I do. But that's not the only reason I'm here. I've researched every project your marketing department has launched in the past 5 years. I can tell you about the success rate of your eco-friendly packaging initiative and the social media engagement metrics from your last 3 campaigns. I'm here because I know I can contribute to this company's success." A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Tell me about Lucas." The sudden shift threw her off balance. What would you like to know?" "Everything you're comfortable sharing. Starting with why you were nearly in tears about being late for this interview." Something in his expression, genuine concern rather than pity, made her walls crumble slightly. "Yesterday I had to tell him we couldn't go to his best friend's birthday party this weekend. The gift would have meant no groceries for 3 days." Her voice caught. He smiled and said it was okay, that maybe we could make a birthday card instead. "He's 4 years old, Mr. Richardson. He shouldn't have to understand things like that yet." Alexander's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly on his desk. "And his father? Not in the picture. He left when I told him I was pregnant." Olivia lifted her chin. "It was the best thing he could have done for us, honestly. Lucas deserves better than someone who runs from responsibility." "Indeed," Alexander murmured, something dark flickering across his features. He stood abruptly, walking to the window. "I have a confession to make, Olivia. I already knew most of this. After your second application, I had HR pull together a detailed report on you. Single mother, putting yourself through night school, working 2 part-time jobs while caring for your son. No missed payments on your rent despite the obvious financial strain. Glowing references from every employer." Olivia's heart pounded. Was this good or bad? His back was still turned, his broad shoulders tense under the expensive suit. "What caught my attention," he continued, "was the volunteer work. 2 hours every Sunday at the Children's Hospital, reading to kids in the cancer ward. Even when you can barely keep your own head above water, you make time to help others." He turned back to face her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. That's the kind of person I want in my company. Someone with not just skills and determination, but genuine compassion. Mr. Richardson, Alexander, please. Especially since I'm about to offer you a different position than the one you applied for. Her fingers gripped the arms of her chair. Different position? I need a new chief of staff. Someone who can coordinate directly with all department heads, manage high-level projects, and essentially be my right hand in running this company. The salary is triple what the executive assistant position offered. Olivia's head spun. Triple the salary. That would mean no more empty cabinets, no more sleepless nights, no more saying no to birthday parties. Lucas could have new clothes, proper winter boots, maybe even those art classes he'd been begging for. Why? She whispered. Why me? Surely there are more qualified. Because in that elevator you showed me exactly who you are. Prepared, resourceful, and genuine. When you talked about your son, your whole face lit up. When you discussed the company's projects, your intelligence and enthusiasm shone through. That's rare, Olivia. Most people in that situation would have been focused solely on their own panic. He sat on the edge of his desk, closer to her now. But there's something else you should know before you accept. His voice dropped slightly. Something about why I was so interested in hearing about your son. Olivia's breath caught at the pain that crossed his face. He reached for a silver frame on his desk, turning it toward her. The photo showed a beautiful little girl, maybe 6 or 7, with Alexander's green-gold eyes and dark hair. My daughter, Charlotte, he said softly. She would have been 8 next month. The past tense hit Olivia like a physical blow. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Leukemia. 2 years ago. His fingers traced the frame. That children's hospital where you volunteer? That's where she spent her last 6 months. The reading program you participate in? It was started with a donation in her name. Tears pricked at Olivia's eyes as pieces clicked into place. His reaction to Lucas's photo, the shadow she'd seen cross his face, his interest in her volunteer work. I've read to Charlotte's room, she realized. There's a plaque, Charlotte's Corner. The walls are painted with butterflies. A soft, sad smile touched his lips. She loved butterflies. Said they were proof that beautiful changes could happen even when you couldn't see them coming. The silence that fell between them was heavy with shared understanding. Olivia saw Alexander Richardson with new eyes, not just as the powerful CEO who could change her life with a job offer, but as a father whose heart had been shattered by unimaginable loss. The position, he said finally, his voice rough with emotion, would require close collaboration. Long hours sometimes. I need to know if you're comfortable with that, given our unusual introduction. Their eyes met, and Olivia felt that same connection from the elevator, deeper now, colored by vulnerability and shared pain. But there was something else too, something that made her pulse quicken and her cheeks warm. When do I start? She asked softly. His answering smile was like the sun breaking through clouds. How about we discuss it over lunch? There's a little Italian place around the corner that makes the best margherita pizza. Unless you'd prefer. Olivia's stomach chose that moment to growl loudly, reminding her of her missed breakfast. Her face flamed with embarrassment, but Alexander's smile just widened. I'd say that's a yes, he chuckled, standing and offering her his hand. Shall we? The next 2 weeks passed in a whirlwind of changes. Olivia's first paycheck felt like a miracle. She spent an hour crying in the grocery store, filling her cart with fresh fruits, vegetables, and yes, several boxes of dinosaur nuggets. Lucas's eyes had grown wide when he saw the fully stocked kitchen, his small hands reaching immediately for the bright red strawberries he'd always begged for, but she could never afford before. Working directly with Alexander was both exhilarating and challenging. He was brilliant, demanding, and surprisingly funny when they worked late into the evening. She found herself looking forward to their daily meetings, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, how he always seemed to know when she needed a coffee break. But it was more than that. She noticed how he listened intently when she spoke, how he valued her input on major decisions. Everything was perfect until the whispers started. Did you hear? She got the position after being stuck in an elevator with him. Single mother with no executive experience? Please, we all know how she got the job. I heard she researched his dead daughter to manipulate him. That last one, overheard in the ladies' room, felt like a knife to the heart. Olivia fled to her office, trying to steady her shaking hands. She had known there would be talk. It was a massive promotion after all, but she hadn't expected such cruelty. "Olivia!" Alexander's voice at her door made her jump. "The board meeting starts in 5 minutes. Are you ready to present the new sustainability initiative?" She grabbed her tablet, forcing a smile. Of course. But as she followed him to the boardroom, she noticed the sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when they passed. Alexander seemed oblivious, but Olivia felt each stare like a physical weight. The board meeting started smoothly. Olivia had prepared meticulously for this presentation. It was her first chance to prove herself to the company's top executives. But as she began speaking, she saw the skeptical expressions, the knowing looks exchanged between board members. "Ms. Martinez," one of them interrupted, "these proposals are quite ambitious. Perhaps someone with more experience should oversee such significant changes." The implied criticism was clear. Olivia felt her cheeks burning, but kept her voice steady as she defended her ideas. She could feel Alexander watching her intently. Later that evening, as the office emptied, he appeared at her door. "Walk with me." They ended up in the small garden terrace on the building's roof, a quiet space she'd discovered during her late-night work sessions. The city lights sparkled below them like earthbound stars. "You've heard the rumors," he said. It wasn't a question. Olivia's throat tightened. Yes, and they're affecting you." "I can handle it," she said quickly. "It's not the first time I've had to prove myself." Alexander's hands gripped the terrace railing. "You shouldn't have to prove anything. Your work speaks for itself." "Does it?" She turned to face him. "Or did you really just hire me because of what happened in that elevator? Because I reminded you of Charlotte?" The moment the words left her mouth, she regretted them. Pain flashed across his face, quickly replaced by something harder. "Is that what you think?" His voice was dangerously quiet. "That I made a multi-million-dollar business decision based on emotional manipulation?" "No, I just—" Olivia wrapped her arms around herself. "The timing, the connection, even I have to admit it looks suspicious." "Look at me," he demanded. When she did, the intensity in his eyes took her breath away. "Yes, meeting you in that elevator changed something. Yes, hearing about Lucas, discovering your connection to Charlotte's reading program, it all meant something. But I hired you because you're brilliant, hard-working, and exactly what this company needs." He stepped closer, and Olivia's heart began to race. "The truth is, these past 2 weeks have been the most alive I've felt since losing Charlotte. You've brought fresh perspectives to our projects, challenged my thinking, made me laugh, made me feel things I thought I'd never feel again." The air between them crackled with tension. Olivia could see the flecks of gold in his eyes, smell his subtle cologne. Her body swayed toward him almost involuntarily. Then her phone buzzed. "Mrs. Thompson, Lucas's babysitter." "He's running a fever," the elderly woman said when Olivia answered. "Been asking for you." Reality crashed back. What was she doing? She couldn't risk this job, couldn't risk the whispers becoming shouts. Lucas needed stability, needed her to focus on providing for him, not getting lost in impossible romantic fantasies with her boss. "I have to go," she whispered, stepping back from Alexander. "Lucas is sick. Let me drive you." "No." It came out sharper than intended. "No, it would make things worse. The rumors." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by something that looked like hurt. "So you're letting them win?" "I'm being practical. I'm a single mother who needs this job. I can't afford to—" She couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't afford to fall for him. Couldn't afford to risk everything on feelings that might not even be real. "Olivia, I'll have the revised proposal on your desk tomorrow morning," she said formally, retreating toward the door. "Good night, Mr. Richardson." She felt his eyes on her back as she walked away, each step feeling like she was leaving something precious behind. But she had learned long ago that single mothers couldn't afford fairy tales, no matter how charming the prince, no matter how much her heart ached to turn around. In her car, she finally let the tears fall. Her phone buzzed with a text from Alexander. "This conversation isn't over. Some things are worth the risk." She stared at the message until the screen went dark, then started her car. Lucas needed her. That was all that mattered. That had to be all that mattered. But as she drove home through the glittering city, her heart whispered that maybe, just maybe, she was making the biggest mistake of her life. 3 days had passed since the rooftop conversation. 3 days of Olivia throwing herself into work, communicating with Alexander only through formal emails and brief meetings. Lucas's fever had broken, but her heart still felt sick. The office whispers continued, but now they held a different kind of judgment. Apparently, her sudden professional distance from Alexander had sparked new rumors about a rejected affair. She was reviewing quarterly reports late one evening when a knock on her office door made her look up. Patricia Chen, the board member who had questioned her expertise, stood there with an unusually serious expression. "Ms. Martinez, may I speak with you privately?" Olivia's stomach tightened, but she gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Of course." Patricia sat, smoothing her impeccable suit. "I owe you an apology." Of all the things Olivia had expected, this wasn't one of them. "I was wrong about you," Patricia continued. "I've reviewed your work on the Sustainability Initiative, the projections, the implementation strategy, the community engagement plans. They're exemplary. But more than that, I've learned something about you that changed my perspective entirely." She placed a worn children's book on Olivia's desk. The cover showed a butterfly emerging from a chrysalis. "My granddaughter Emily is in the oncology ward at Metropolitan Children's Hospital," Patricia said softly. "She told me about the kind lady who comes to read every Sunday, who does different voices for all the characters and brings stickers for the kids who are having hard days. She said this lady missed last Sunday and the Sunday before, but that she had read this book about butterflies and changes so many times that Emily had memorized it." Olivia's hands trembled as she touched the book's cover. "Charlotte's favorite," she whispered. "Yes." Patricia's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Emily told me how much she loves Charlotte's Corner, how the butterfly paintings make her feel less scared. I didn't make the connection until yesterday, when I overheard someone making a cruel comment about how you had researched Alexander's daughter." "I didn't know," Olivia said quickly. "When I started volunteering, I had no idea about the connection to Alexander or Charlotte. Those children deserve something to smile about." "I know that now." Patricia reached across the desk and squeezed Olivia's hand. "And I want you to know that I've spoken to the board. We've unanimously approved your sustainability initiative. Furthermore, we're implementing a new company-wide volunteer program based on your Sunday reading sessions. Every employee will be given paid time off for similar community service." Olivia's vision blurred with tears. "Thank you," she managed. "Don't thank me. This is purely selfish. We want to keep you here, where you belong." Patricia stood, straightening her suit again. "And Olivia, stop letting fear hold you back. The heart knows what it needs, even when the mind tries to be practical." With that cryptic statement, she left, leaving Olivia staring at the butterfly book. Her phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Thompson. "Lucas keeps asking when he can meet your friend with the green eyes. Says you smile different when you talk about him." Something broke inside Olivia. She had been so focused on protecting herself, on being practical, that she'd forgotten what she'd learned from all those hours reading to sick children, that sometimes the most beautiful changes happen when you're brave enough to let them. She grabbed her coat and rushed to the elevator, pressing the button for the top floor. Her heart pounded as she pushed open the door to the roof terrace. Alexander stood at the railing, his suit jacket off, sleeves rolled up, staring at the city lights. "I've been an idiot," she said. He turned, and the look in his eyes stole her breath. "Have you?" "Yes." She stepped closer. "I've spent my whole life being practical, making the safe choice, keeping my walls up to protect myself and Lucas. But the truth is, sometimes the biggest risk is not taking one at all. Olivia, let me finish. When I'm with you, I feel something I've never felt before. It terrifies me because it's not just about me anymore. If I let myself fall for you and things go wrong, it's not just my heart that gets broken. Lucas is the most important person in your life," Alexander finished, moving closer, "as he should be. But Olivia, did you ever consider that maybe that's one of the reasons I fell in love with you?" The world seemed to stop. "What? Your love for him shines through everything you do, your strength, your determination to give him a better life. It's beautiful. You've shown me that it's possible to keep going, to find joy again even after life breaks your heart." He cupped her face in his hands. "I love the way you challenge me at work, how you see solutions where others see problems. I love how you bring stickers to sick children and do funny voices while reading stories. I love that you've made me laugh again, made me hope again." Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks. "I'm scared," she whispered. "So am I. Loving someone means being vulnerable again. But you taught me something. Through all those butterfly books you've read to those kids, Sometimes the most beautiful changes require us to break free from our safe cocoons. She laughed through her tears. That was terribly cheesy. I know. His smile was tender. But it's true. I love you, Olivia Martinez. You and that amazing little boy of yours. If you'll let me, I'd like to spend the rest of my life proving that some risks are worth taking. Lucas has been asking about you, she said softly. Says I smile different when I talk about the man with the green eyes. Smart kid. Alexander's thumb brushed away her tears. What do you say we take him for ice cream this weekend? I know this great place that makes dinosaur sundaes. Instead of answering, Olivia rose on her tiptoes and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft at first, then deeper, filled with all the emotions they'd been holding back. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, the city lights seemed to sparkle brighter than before. Is that a yes? Alexander whispered against her hair. Yes, Olivia smiled, thinking of Lucas, of Charlotte's butterfly paintings, of all the beautiful changes that can happen when you're brave enough to let love in. That's a yes to everything. High above the city, in the garden where butterflies would bloom in spring, two hearts that had known pain found healing in each other's arms. And somewhere in a brightly painted hospital room, children were falling asleep to stories of beautiful changes, of hope, and of love that comes when you least expect it, but need it most.